it feels like there is a acceleration in the field in the last couple years. I mean, 2020, okay, 2020 we had iStand, 2021 we have the FDA modernization 2.0. I'm not sure what 1.0 was, but and then just almost right now in July 2026 we just had a modernization act 3.0. And then in April 2025, there is this roadmap put out by FDA that suggests we need to just all shift to the NAMs in 3 to 5 years, which is extremely ambitious in my opinion. But I'd like to hear what your thought on this is. I mean, clearly the policymakers are trying to push towards this direction. Do you think one, scientifically we can get there? Two, is the commercial space actually ready for it? I mean, are people writing checks to buy these models?
So I'll start with, just addressing in general what you said. The last 2 years, it's been incredible how much work has been done, how much policy has changed. And that, I think, is the first step towards opening these regulatory floodgates. Yeah, you mentioned, in April of last year, they had this roadmap that really spelled out, we want to, for certain applications in 3 to 5 years,
Okay.
have these human relevant, not wholesale. I think that is something just to make sure people talk about, because it can be a little bit of a trap if we say, oh, we're going to be done with animals in 5 years, because it gets expectations really, really high. When the reality is, let's pick the places that we know animals don't work and let's plug in tools that do work there, generate momentum. And that's exactly what's happening. So really, I would say that laid the groundwork, but then there was still a lot of the foundation that needed to be built, a lot of the infrastructure that had to grow to be able to accommodate that. Because of course, as you said, it's not so easy as just, okay, we're going to flip a switch. But what I'm really excited about is in March earlier this year, the FDA built on that. So there's a roadmap. That's really important. That gives us the 10,000 foot view. They released a draft guidance, which may not sound as exciting as a roadmap, but it's actually incredibly powerful. And there they spelled out to pharma companies, if you want to utilize these organs on a chip, you can. We've already said that. Here's how we want you to choose. And a big part of it is context of use. So you have these models, as we talked about. It's not an entire brain. It's not an entire liver, right? It's an organoid, or it's that on a chip. But there are some areas where that is maximally effective. And so that's context of use. So find the context of use where this tool works better than anything else that's out there. Once you've identified that, write up what that means, then, design your experiments to prove to us that it works. And once you've spelled that out, you can go to the FDA and make your case. So that is a way to do it as a one-off. iStand that we talked about is a way to do it all at once. But pharma can already go to the FDA and say, we're convinced of this model. We know exactly where we're applying it. And the FDA can say, okay. And so I think that was a really big moment. April of this year, the FDA actually came up with their 1 year progress report from the April announcement last year. And they said, we're getting the regulatory agencies in place, that we're all talking to each other. We're all talking the same language. And so they're on track, which is amazing. I mean, they've opened the Standardization of Organoids Center, and they've a group called Arriva, or an institute called Arriva, that's coordinating all of this. And so the infrastructure is there. And then, your next question was, is the commercial need there? I would say yes, there is enough commercial desire that companies like 28 Bio and others have been able to build to a certain size. And it's a really good size. These companies are generating significant revenue. But until the FDA gives the green light, there's a little bit of a threshold, right? But I think we're on the cusp right now of the FDA for some of these tools saying, okay, we're allowing it. And that's when every single pharma company starts to use it, right? Not just the ones who are progressive. So we're on the cusp of I think that growing exponentially.
So if you're a startup founder now in the space, what would you do to kind of help acceleration along?
That is a very big very big and broad question, but what I'll say, what's difficult to do when you develop tools like this that can do so many different things, it's really difficult to pick the one application or the one disease that you can do better than anyone else, right? With our nerve on a chip and our brain organoid, you have the ability to do Alzheimer's, ALS, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's. You can't do them all at once. So what I see the successful companies doing now is starting to hone in on what they do best, what they do better than anyone else, and develop that. So that's where I would start. If you're, a startup or developing new technology in this space, find what you do better than anyone else as quickly as you can. And then now we've moved past, okay, prove to me you have the biology so it looks enough like a brain that you can convince me, to prove to me that you can run the same study 10 times and get the same drug. So now people are worried about reproducibility, scalability. Are you building in features that lets you test 10, 100, 1,000 drugs as you grow? So it's really focusing on different aspects of what we need for full integration and full-time adoption of these technologies.
Well, in addition to technological startups, there are also big organizations, some big CROs, pharmaceutical companies. Who do you think is going to be the ultimate winner of this entire space? I mean, just a wild guess, I guess.
I don't think there's going to be one winner. If I'm really being honest, I think that within pharma, you have some institutions, some companies like Roche, Genentech, GlaxoSmithKline, Takeda. Some of these have been ahead of the curve in adopting these technologies. They've adopted them, they've validated them. They have experts now who can run these studies, and so a win to them looks like getting better drugs to patients faster, better chance of success, right? So now that they've teed this up, they're starting to put drugs into the clinic that they chose based at least in part of some of this data. So there are some of them that are going to start to win in a way that benefits all of us. When you talk about all of the different organ on a chip companies, because there are many of them, right? Everything from heart on a chip, liver on a chip, kidney on a chip. We always wondered what would be the ultimate exit, right? How are we going to make money, make our investors money? One thought was there would be a roll up where there would be kind of a amalgamation, or, all of these would come together under one umbrella. That hasn't happened yet. I think it still could. Then the other, like you said, is there could be a CRO who comes along, scoops all of this up so that they can own the space. We're yet to see which one of those is going to win. But I think once the FDA really makes their decisions, things could move very, very quickly.